everyone, and welcome to the last episode of this first chunk of Heavensward. Today we're going to be taking care of the fates in the Sea of Clouds, namely the lower level ones that we can currently do. They're all going to be around level 50. Meeting up with some friends here. We've got me, Ashy, and Amanda. We were going to have my wife Thabita with us as well, but she had something come up at the last moment, so we're leaving them behind at the Aetheryte Plaza. As we're going through and doing these fates, we will also... I will at a few points also be rearranging my hotbars a little bit. I've been adjusting my hotbars recently for tanks specifically, and I've found some improvements that I think are working a lot better for me, that put abilities I use more frequently in a more accessible location. Anyways, Amanda's going to be our chauffeur for getting from fate to fate, because I can't fly yet. None of the areas we are going are areas that we can't access on foot. We could walk to all of these areas, but it is far faster to fly. And as we're flying around, we do accidentally come across a couple of map locations, so we're going to have a bit more of the map filled in as we go through here. Alright, looks like the first fate we are doing is a notorious monster fate, A Long Way Down. Way over at the east end of the Sea of Clouds. Alright. The Paisas are a mischievous bunch, finding amusement in cracking open the Rose Knight crates and tossing their contents off cloud top to the ground thousands of yalms below. The worst offender, a deceptively adorable misfit named Potemkin, has been sighted, and the Order is out to show him the same fate as the crates. Oh no. Alright, well, let's kill the prankster then. That's what you get for stealing our supplies and then yeeting it. But yeah, so the main change I'm making for my tanks is I'm moving my mitigations up onto my back hotbar, which is a little bit out of the way, which makes them a little less accessible, admittedly. Not ideal, since tank needs to use mitigations in order to, not die. But it's usually about 15 to 20 seconds between each mitigation use. And those are a bit more reactive in a way that, like, you don't need to immediately use it. You have a couple of moments to use it. So it should be fine to have them up there. I'm doing Rampart on the left. Sorry, no. Rampart on the... I am forgetting the names. I'm doing the AoE debuff on enemies on down. I'm doing the personal 20% mint on the left. And I'm doing the tank-specific 2-minute mint on the top. And that is consistent between all of my tanks. Moving them up there just allows me to put a few other abilities that we will get to later as Dark Knight in more accessible locations on the D-pad on my main hotbar. Next up is Food Fight. Food is scarce on the floating islets of the Sea of Clouds, so when two species descend on the same hunting grounds, chaos is bound to erupt. That chaos, however, can be a blessing in disguise by providing an opportunity to kill two birds, or more accurately, one bird and one rodent-like creature, with one stone. Alright, we are fighting Gastornises, and what was the other one? The Paisas? Are they rodents? They look more like... You know what? That's the species I was about to say, I'm pretty sure is a rodent, actually, so... I'll leave it be. Alright, so yeah, just gotta kill the Paisas and the Gastornises. They will also fight each other, making our life a little bit easier, progressing the fate a little bit on its own. But this isn't too hard to take them down. We want to gather them with our AoEs. Did I not think to drag them all the way? What is that one doing? Hold on, are you okay? It's just kind of limping. It's trying very hard to get away, and now it wants to fight me again. Alright, fair enough. I have been mentioning in recent episodes that after this we'd be taking a break, waiting for patch 7.2 to come out, and then after that it'd be about a month before I got back to releasing videos. So, I forgot how ahead in recording videos I was. I normally say about 1 month ahead, but I ended up 2 months ahead for the first chunk of Heavensward. So I got a nice month-long break on these videos. but there's going to be barely a break for you watching this, so that's funny. I did get to take a break though, which is very nice. I have been playing so much of this game that occasionally taking a break is probably a really good thing for my mental health. But yeah, the break between this first section and the next won't be too long. It might not even be a non-break. But we will very soon be starting on the middle third of Heavensward. Alright, next up, looks like we have a fate from a Rose Knight back down at the main camp. Let's see what that fate's all about. And had to refresh the recommendations list because it was not showing up. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for the recommendations list to update with new fates that pop up. So I recommend, if you're watching for fates to spawn, watch your map and also refresh your recommendations every now and then by just changing the category and changing it back. Is it just me, or does it feel like the car that we're using speeds up as we arrive at our destination? Who would have thought Gaelicats would be attracted to catmint? Everyone? You're probably right, but that does not mean we can stand here and watch as the beasts tear through our camp. Lend us your talents, adventure, and the Rose House will reward you nicely. Alright, let's cast off the Clouder to stave off the myriad Vilekin that endlessly nip at the cheeks of the Rose Knight station in Cloudtop. Several crates filled with seedlings of a natural herb repellent known as catmint were brought in to plant around the camp. Unfortunately, the odor has attracted a cloud of Gaelicats who have begun destroying the containers to get at their contents. Oops! This plan did not go according to plan. You planted cat drugs, and now the cats are here to be a bigger nuisance. Oh, and how convenient for us, the next fate popped up very quickly while we were doing this. So we'll be able to rush off, right off to do This Is How We Gundu once this one's done. But yep, this is the defense fate. We've got 4 crates of catmints. And as long as at least 1 crate survives to the end of the fate, then we are golden. This is not a tough one at all. Fates are rarely difficult. Only boss fates tend to be difficult. And we've got a party of 3. Alright, looks like we are almost done dealing with the Gaelicats. Just a couple more left and we should be free to move on to the next phase. God, the pained cat sounds really do make me so sad. Alright, next up is This Is How We Gundu. What do you mean in combat? There we go. Alright, off we go. Looks like this one's going to be back in Vorsian-Soran? Oh, a little past Vorsian-Soran. Fair enough, right by the Gundu, right by the Gundu base. That makes sense. And yeah. It still takes a moment to get to our destination, but it's still so much faster than walking. So much faster than walking. Armed warriors of the hostile Gundu tribe have gathered before Vunduak Bendu and begun the ritual hooting of insults and stomping of talons, which normally serve as a prelude to battle. Rather than wait for the Vanu to attack, the Rose Knights have elected to cast the first stone. Understandable. I don't like that the tensions seem to keep escalating, but there is a primal involved, so perhaps that's not entirely surprising. Oh yes, and remembered that one of the actions I wanted to move, two of the actions actually I wanted to move over to my hotbars. I now have a better space for Salted Earth that is far more accessible, and I've got a space for, I believe it's Unmend. The ability that lets me attack at range. Doesn't do a lot of damage, but more damage is better than no damage, even if you're at, especially if you're at range. And the next one spawned already. Very nice. Oh, right, and I have a better spot for Blood Weapon as well. Yeah, just moving everything into place gradually over time. There we are, the Gundu are dealt with. On to Leech the Sky. And this one is going to be in Vorsianzoran. There's quite a few fates in that lake. Makes sense, it would be probably one of the best places for hosting life in the entire region, since it's the only real major source of water. Which is ironic given it's in the clouds, but not a soul in the realm would deny that a good leeching now and then keeps the humors clean and the body free of sickness. But pumpkin-sized leeches capable of rendering a man into a husk in a matter of moments? That is a different story altogether. Okay, no, do not treat illness with leeching. This is a long discredited practice. It does not work. Do not do it. You will be in a lot of trouble if you do it. Well, trouble in terms of, like, your health. Alright, let's deal with these leeches, these Obdelas. There are a lot of them. I kinda wish there were more. If there were more, our AoEs would be far more effective, especially since we have a healer on hand. And I think, yeah, completely forgot to have Juniper out to this point. That'll make things a lot easier, I think. And we gotta level up for Dark Knight, so I think we're gonna switch over to Astrologian for the next fates. Just as soon as we deal with the Water Sprite. Alright, looks like we've got two new fates available. Youth Must Be Severed, followed by Food Fight. And I think we are going to do a little bit of hotbar rearranging for Astrologian as well. Not as severe as we did for tanks for a Dark Knight, but I do remember moving a few abilities around. Alright, first off we'll do Youth Must Be Severed. As a display of strength, young members of the Gundu tribe will taunt their enemies using petty acts of aggression, such as shouting insults or throwing feces. Those especially brave and arrogant, however, will actually physically attack. And without someone to bloody their noses, the violence can only escalate. Okay, so we're deterring, not killing? Please? Yes, thank you? Alright, let's deal with the Gundu youth. And that is a lot of enemies. There we go. That's a bit more like it. Unfortunately, this party comp is not exactly ideal for Astrologian. Ideally, you'd have at least one ranged or caster DPS, and at least one physical or melee DPS. Oh well, buffs are buffs, even if they're slightly weaker than they could be. Alright, the Gundu have been dealt with. Hopefully they're running back home. Hopefully to not try this again. Next up is food fights. Oh, actually, no, food fight is one we did earlier, I believe. Alright then, in that case, let's move on to save the nests for last. Oh yeah, food fight was the second fate we did. Nice. The belly of a Gastornis is filled with one of the most powerful corrosives known to man, allowing the massive Cloudkin to digest almost anything from bones and hair to crystal and rock. This digestive process produces toxic fumes which are released as the Gastornis breathes, making them deadly neighbors. Okay. Yeah, makes sense we would very much want to thin out the Gastornis population then. But unfortunately, we're not just thinning out the Gastornis population. To do this one, we actually have to kill the nests, which I'll realize in a minute here. Yeah, by destroying the nests, they can't reproduce so easily. Hopefully it'll encourage them to leave the area. And it will leave the air just a little bit more breathable and a little bit less toxic. Alright, drop poison on all the nests so they will die passively while we deal with the Gastornis that nest in these nests. And then this fate will actually have a follow-up once the nests are all dead. The one fate we're doing today that actually has a chain attached. That is a lot of Gastornises. Oh dear. I might be getting a little bit slammed. Okay. We're clear. We're almost halfway done, so that's 7 nests total then. Because that was the third one we smashed. There we go, and as soon as that one ends, a new one begins. One turned over the Cloudkin's nest. If you believe that destroying a giant nest would not upset the giant creature who called that nest home, then Diatrima would like to have a word with you. Yeah, no, that makes sense. We pissed off the Gastornis. Who could have seen that coming? So let's fight the big bird, and then we can move on to one final fate for today in this zone. Though, fighting a notorious monster with 2 healers and 1 DPS, that's inherently going to be a very slow but very safe process. Maybe I could have turned back the tank, but Dark Knight was 55 already. Astrologia needed the experience. forget what level Machinist was at this point. Maybe Machinist could have used the experience. All right. Diatrima's down. One final fate to go. Our last fate is Anzu Trois over here at the southeast of Vorsian-Soran. We were doing some filler fates in the meantime, just to kill some time and get some experience, etc. Alright, this final fate, Anzu Trois. Once Anzu hatchlings reach a certain age, their mothers will begin taking them hunting, so that the hatchlings can learn the art of subduing prey. Slay the birds, both young and old, to prevent the fostering of new killers. Predator birds. Very dangerous. Though killing the babies feels so cruel. But yes, indeed, we need to fight both the Anzu crones and the Anzu pullets in order to clear this fate. Do not just fight one and ignore the other, otherwise you will be here for a while. And indeed, as soon as this fate is done, that will be about it for today. This is the last fate at level 50 for the Sea of Clouds. Any other fates are going to be higher level and in much later areas for when we eventually come back to the Sea of Clouds later in the story. Not going to be able to deal with that for a while. So yeah, let's go ahead and I'll say my piece as we wrap this up. Thank you everyone for watching. There may or may not be a short break, depends on how recording everything once 7.2 releases goes. But once I've got a nice batch of videos ready after 7.2 releases, we will return to more Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward as we move into the middle third of the story. Thank you to my friends who were able to join me for the Fate grind on this day. This was delightful and fun. And I will see everyone next time as we're going to begin checking out the Churning Mist, which we recently arrived in. And it's hopefully going to look a lot better with the new graphics update coming in patch 7.2. I'll see everyone next time for that.